What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood, managing editor, State of the U. Follow him on the Twitterverse at Underwood Sports. I am the Beast, Brian London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. We apologize for our absence over the last couple of weeks. Things happen in life. You got to deal with them. Ebbs and flows, hills and valleys, balls and strikes, wins and losses. All of that stuff happens, and you just got to move on. You just got to get through it and move on. So here we are, back for another week. And speaking of balls and strikes, Cam, we have to start, unfortunately, with the University of Miami teasing us. They were getting our juices flowing. They got to the Super Regionals, and then on the they made it to a game 3, right? Best 2 out of 3, and then lost to Louisville in a game that did not go their way. And I sincerely don't know how to feel about this University of Miami Hurricanes baseball season. Listen, I was rooting for them to make this postseason run. I was really happy they got to the Supers. I thought going in that they had a chance to beat Louisville. I think if you looked up and down the roster, you thought, okay, this team compares relatively in a good way to the Louisville baseball team. But in the end, they could not pull it out. They did not make it to Omaha, and I'm still trying to figure out where I stand on this baseball team this season.
First of all, and I hear you on being a little conflicted in the end. Obviously, you want to get to Omaha. I don't know why, but personally, I hate Louisville. Like, they're just one of these random teams that's popular just because, like, their fans and like other media people, like, just they run their mouth a lot, and usually it doesn't get to me, the person. I'm like, okay, I'll just hit you with the stat. I don't know. They just they grind my gears. They boil my blood. So I hate losing to Louisville. I hate losing in general, specifically to them. But, in a game 3, so a winner take all in Supers, 3-2 is your final score. Coming up on the short end of that stick, just not enough situational hitting, not enough timely hits, runners in scoring position, things like that. Daniel Cuvée, first team All-American, second team All-American, depending on who or which outlet and everything. It just wasn't there for him in the big moments, and I needed that from him. I thought that the pitching actually stood up, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that in a lot of instances, but just not enough consistent quality. And I give nitpicking fully. We're talking about a Sweet 16, Super Regional going to the Final 8 in Omaha, and coming up 1 run short. In all, honestly, from where this team was previously, even last season, and, at the early midpoint of the season at, 500 baseball, I don't want to be Coral Gables or anything, but this has to be a big step forward, especially for a JD Arteaga, who I personally on this here podcast called to be fired in the moment. I still don't believe that he's necessarily the guy, but I do have to give credit to where it's due because he figured some stuff out. The players love him, obviously. The parents of the players, everybody who's on Twitter, really being very gracious and complimentary to JD Arteaga, and I want it to work. I'm just not convinced that it will. But in all, even if it's not Omaha, I think that you have to say that this is a step in the right direction. The thing that has been missing, both on the micro in this game and, in like the first game where we got blown out, and across this season and across multiple seasons, has been consistency. So, this time next year, are we in Omaha? Are we in Supers? Or not, or whatever. That's really going to be the testament of things. I'm still in a show and prove kind of a mode with JD, but overall, I have to give credit to this team, and I'm just hopeful that next year in Daniel Cuvier's final year in college, because he will not be coming back for his senior year. Believe that.
Nope.
As a top probably 10, maybe even 5 draft pick in the 2026 MLB draft. I hope that we do something with this elite talent on campus that has, eluded the guys of like Yohandy Morales and, the older Walters brother and, other great guys who are, CJ Kapis is raking for the Cleveland Guardians and about to be called up to the show. Like he's Brian Van Bell previously. He's up with your Red Sox, matter of fact. You know what I mean? Like we got a bunch of dudes who can really play and are continuing to excel when they get to the next level. Carson Palmquist, I know he's getting shelled because he pitches for the Rockies, but he's up. You know what I mean? So we have this kind of talent. It's my hope that we do something with it. I yield the floor. Thank you for listening to my soliloquy.
I like it. So I want to follow up on what you said about consistency, because I was getting railed on social media when after the season ended against Louisville, I tweeted basically, listen, great job by JD and this group getting to this point where you're a couple of runs away from getting to Omaha, but for all of you just blowing smoke in ways that I can't even imagine, I get it. You're in the moment, but like what we're trying to aim for is getting Miami baseball back to the point where like getting to the regionals and super regionals isn't even a question. Like that comes with actually just getting out there. And then it's like, can we be one of the 8 that goes to Omaha? And more often than not, you are, right? So when you get to that point is when I can say, hey, Miami Hurricanes baseball is back, is something to be contended with. Like one super regional in 10 years doesn't mean that your program is back or definitely headed in the right direction. It takes a couple of years of this consistency for it to be that. And I didn't understand why I was getting so much pushback. And then I, took a step back and was like, okay. Like, I get it. There's a lot of baseball stands out there that are just going to like fight you no matter what you say, because they've been sitting at Mark Light Stadium since before I was born, or, since the 80s, or, since, the days of Jay Tesmer throwing sidearm, like whatever it is, they've been there a long time and they're going to, put up for their club. And I get it. And, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have done the same thing. But now that, I'm kind of adulting, sort of close to 50, but still really haven't figured it out, but kind of, I can look at this from the 35,000 foot view and say, listen, okay, they got further than I thought they would, but let's keep doing it. Let's make sure that we have the talent coming in, and not just coming in, the talent coming in because we've had talent, but the talent playing up to the level that they're supposed to be able to play at in college. And Daniel Cuvier, great, but the next guy after him, I think, was Dorian Gonzalez, had 30 less RBI. And can you get more guys to help you in clutch situations through the whole season, not just in a regional, not just in a one series, but through the entire season? And can you get the pitching to perform up to the level it needs to be to get you through a tough series, an ACC tournament, a regional, and a super regional? And there was just times this year, there was a month when they were great and a month when they were terrible. And it just was all over the place. And in the end, they ended up getting to the super regional, and that's amazing. And props to JD and the entire staff and every player on this team. I think they were a special group, and no one expected it from them, but they brought us there, and that's wonderful. I hate to say it, but now do it again.
And honestly, do it better, because you got run ruled out of the ACC tournament by the worst team in the conference.
Yeah, that's unacceptable.
Like Cal, who was like 7-22 in conference or whatever their record was, but made it as the lowest seed of the tournament, and they run rule you out in the first day before lunchtime, bro. Like, it's like that's, and I'm not trying to be like just doom and gloom, but that happened 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? And then we won the regional, great. Then we go to supers, cool. But like just before that, we got our doors blown off by the worst team in the ACC. Like, it's both of these things living in that level of inconsistency. That's what I'm trying to mitigate out. And if you remove some of those things, then yeah, you'll hopefully be able to, have the kind of performance across the season that you want to see.
All right, so check me if I'm wrong, okay?
Right.
In my view of basically saying that my desire is for this program to be consistently good, whereas we don't have to worry about whether the postseason is a question anymore. Like, hey, we're going to be in the regionals, and yeah, unless something weird happens, we're going to be in the super regionals, and then I'll take that, and we'll hopefully get to Omaha, 2 out of every 3 years, or 3 out of every 4 years, or even 2 out of every 4 years, something to that effect, because that's where the program was for 30 plus years.
I don't think that that's crazy, and I've brought it up on here before, but look at Oregon State. They're in their 7th or 8th College World Series in the last 20 years. And on top of that, super in Nashville against Vanderbilt in a different year. Another super last year, Lexington against Kentucky. And then, just regionals every year except for 2008. So a single year with missing the tournament. But then you have 3 national champs and 7 or 8 College World Series in this span. Like, and a couple other super regionals on top of that. And that's Oregon State, respectfully, not a legacy powerhouse program, nor do they have the, recruiting base and talent around that, Miami does in terms of baseball. It's not just football, you guys, like we play baseball all year round down here. Like, you can always, if you're driving by anywhere that has fields, you're going to hear ping all year round. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not crazy to say we should aspire to the level of success of Oregon State, even if you take out the 3 national championships, including a, back-to-back when Jacoby Ellsbury was up there and everything, right?
Yeah.
Even if you take that out. Dude, so you're almost 50-50 you are 50-50 in terms of supers, and you're like 40-60 getting to Omaha out of the entire run of 20 years. Bro, like, that's not crazy for this program. Again, that's always loaded with talent. Why do you think that everybody celebrates so much now? Because they would come down here when Pat Burrow was hitting 647, when Kevin Brown was hitting him all the way into the opposing end of Cobb Stadium that same year, that giant human being my freshman year of college. Bro, like, we've seen all of this. Danny Graves down here throwing 947 miles an hour and striking guys out. You can't see it. And now they're coming down here just like, had been with certain football teams at a place where the Orange Bowl used to live. You know what I mean? Yeah. Who never got to sniff victory against Miami. And now, cool, they get to do something. I mean, when I was in high school, we came down to South Florida for spring training, as in our high school team, because I went to Cranbrook for one, and we had a 2-week spring break, and you can't play football, baseball outside in Michigan then. So we flew down to Florida, and we would go to a game, and it would usually be that opening series, Miami against Harvard and everything, and Miami would sweep them. We've lost a couple of those games now. The early season, Ivy League bye series and everything, and they're starting to win a little bit. It's not crazy to say to be where you are and saying, I hope and I think that a little bit more consistent success towards supers and getting back to Omaha, because we have not been since 2016, is reasonable for this legacy program. And this is what is in front of JD Arteaga. I know that this season felt great, and I know that the turnaround at the end was wonderful. I enjoyed it just like you. But this can only be the first step along a path. This cannot be the end of the road.
I can't wait till I look at my mentions and just see me getting called a hater. I can't wait. I mean,
hey, at me too. You see it right there, Underwood Sports.
Right.
If you're a hater, I'm a hater, because we agree.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, you're a hater, and
Okay.
I explained to some dude, I'm like, explain to me how I'm a hater when I'm actually an alum that went to the school, spent more than a decade on the broadcast, traveled with the program. Like, explain to me how I'm a hater again. Oh, because I'm
Because I
telling
want to
the truth.
win?
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, come on,
Huh?
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a break. On the other side, we're gonna switch it up. We're gonna get to some football. There is some football news to get to that we want to pass along, and then also we've had some big official visit weekends that have happened and are happening. So we'll get to all that and more on the other side. You're listening and watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood, managing editor of State of the U. Follow him on X at Underwood Sports. I'm Brian the Beast London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Stateoftheu.com is where you want to go check out Cam and his staff and all the great stuff that is up there. We've got some great stuff by Craig T. Smith talking about NFL, talking heads, talking about Cam Ward. We've got some breakdowns of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish because Miami's going to play them by Justin Totavio. We got all sorts of stuff at stateoftheu.com. So go check it out. I will put the link in the description. Cam does a good job with his staff over there. We have to
come on over and fan with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Open 24/7, 365, and it's free.
It's a great price. So yeah, come on over.
If it's free, it's me. All right, we need to talk about some football news that happened. It kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The man with the mustache, Aaron Feld, the head of strength and conditioning, decided to leave the University of Miami. From what has been put out in public, it was for family reasons. He had a long post about wanting to spend more time with his family, with his wife and his kids. And I will tell you this, having been inside the program, at the earlier part of the 2000s and late 90s and getting to know a lot of coaches and strength and conditioning coaches and GAs and everyone, there is not a lot of time for family when you're in this business. Even, you might get a week or two in the summer where a head coach lets you go on vacation or do something. Other than that, it is literally just grind.
Yeah.
Remember, there's times when the players are out working out where coaches are not allowed to be there, but strength and conditioning coaches can be. And so they have a lot of responsibilities besides just getting the dudes in shape and whatnot. So we wish Aaron Feld the best. From my point of view, I think he did a great job. I don't have anything to complain about the way Miami has performed from a strength and conditioning standpoint, especially those big biscuit eating guys up front have done a great job. So props to him. I'll miss his mustache. And it seems like, he's going to kind of I think he's opening his own strength and conditioning kind of place and gonna be with his family. So listen, I can't say anything bad about the guy, and I can't detract from the reasons why if that's why he did indeed leave the University of Miami, why that would be the choice.
Yeah, and obviously if he wants to go and be a family man and have more time with his family, that's something that he should absolutely be able to do. Mario is notorious for working his staff very hard. And you made the point already that, strength and conditioning coaches are always there. They're the ones who have to be there during the non-field workouts while these guys are reshaping their bodies and everything. And he was, with Mario at Oregon, I believe, was an assistant SC at Alabama before.
Yeah.
So, Saban doesn't work anybody easily or lightly, or didn't, you know what I mean? So he's done this for a good long time and everything. So, if that's what he wants to do, good on him. The only thing that I will say is, the biscuit-eating dudes on the football team been great. I personally, and Justin Totavio also, and he's written about it on stateoftheu.com, a very great website that's free 99, so you should go check it out. But have been a little apoplectic about fast guys who are brought here being fast, getting slow. Or not necessarily slow, but not being as fast comparatively at the next level. And I get that there's leveling of speed. You know, you're a fish among wall, you know, like you're a big fish in a small pond in high school, but then you're known for speed and you get to Miami and all of a sudden you're middling, you know, in terms of explosion and straight line speed. Think of a guy like Malik Curtis from Fort Myers, Bishop Moore. Kid was, you know, state champion, you know, like you're running super fast and everything, and then you get here and like your average speed, like that's a thing that I have had questions about, and moving into the next generation or you know, regime of strength and conditioning coaches, that's the thing that I'm going to be looking at, because I think that the bulk and functional strength part of the strength and like guys being in shape to play, all these things, yes, but specifically the speed work, specifically for the speed guys. And like, I know that people are going to say, well, there was Brashard Smith or there was Chris Johnson Jr. But we had recruited more fast guys than just those couple. And it didn't necessarily show itself on the field. And that's a thing that I would like to see change with the new strength and conditioning staff.
Speaking of which, so Irvin Young, who was at the University of Miami, he left. He spent one season at Tennessee. He was brought back, or he came back as the associate strength and conditioning coach. But then when Aaron Feld left, he's been promoted to be the head guy. And listen, he is he looks like he should be your strength and conditioning coach, right? Like he wears the title well. And we'll see what his philosophy is, right? Because I think it is that age-old argument, Cam, between bulk versus speed and how it all factors together. And then, you know, then you obviously you need to deal with like the climate that's down here is different than it is in Oregon or, you know, other schools in the Midwest, what have you. So like the conditioning aspect of it and being able to survive 4 quarters at Hard Rock on a hot August day or a hot September day, all of that stuff factors in. And you know, I can remember having the argument about this, you know, 25 years ago, right? With certain players that would come in that you thought were really fast in high school. And then they got here and it's like, why is this guy bulking up so much? He needs to be fast, you know, whatever. You know, that was a hot topic and it always has been. It's always an age-old argument. So we'll see how Irvin Young's philosophy kind of gets in. The thing about it is it's really just what Mario Cristobal wants, right?
Well, I mean, there is that, but I mean, like, look, even going back to, you know, previous generations and previous, you know, teams, like Santana Moss gained weight when he was here, but ain't nobody gonna call him slow all of a sudden. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be Usain Bolt out here. You know, I'm not saying everybody's going to be Darryl Green who's running 4.28 at 40 years old. Not everyone. But when you have guys whose main function and main athletic trait is their speed, and you train that out of them, or it seems to no longer be present when they hit the field, that is a thing that I have questioned and we've written about on stateoftheu.com. So please go over a fan with us and read, you know, what we've done. But that is the only thing. So I'm nitpicking again with this, like I did with baseball. I'm not saying that everything was trash. I'm not casting aspersions onto the work that was done by Aaron Feld and or anyone else. I believe they do a really, really great job. And we, especially because we have bigger bodies now than we have pretty much ever at Miami football. We've always been small, 1000%. Quick, fast. Now we're recruiting at and above the prototype physical build at every position, and you have to care for those bodies differently. Did a great job. Hopefully that great job continues. However, there's a minor detail that I would also like to maybe reassess, since we're, you know, the lead director of strength and conditioning has turned over. That's all.
You know, I was just thinking on the top of my head, maybe I'll put in an interview request for Coach Young, Irvin Young, see if he'll join us on the podcast. And then I thought, what's going to happen when I send that email? And one never really knows, but certainly I will make the effort just to see. I'm still waiting to hear back. I'm not sure if you. I'm sorry to go on the digression, but Jim Larinaga has been putting out these Instagram posts and X posts like, we had this player that lost 7 teeth at 10 a.m. and then we played a 1 p.m. game and he had 42 points. True story. Like all these great stories. And I wanted to talk to Jim Larinaga about his kind of like newfound love of sharing his stories on social media. And I sent that email about a month and a half ago. I still haven't heard back yet. So any one of these days, I'm sure I'll hear back. We'll see how that happens. In any event, let's switch focus very quickly to recruiting. So we are recording this on a Tuesday afternoon. Coming up this weekend is the last weekend of this period of this whole academic year, the 24-25 academic year, for anyone to take an official visit. So the next time these players are allowed to come on campuses in September. So Cam, we've had 3 great weeks of official visits. We have the last one coming up. What do we know on the recruiting front? What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, hey, well, first of all, it's official or unofficial up until Sunday.
Got it.
So yeah, if a player wants to pay their way and come on down to the U, great, show on up, kind of a thing. But yeah, so this is it. Then we have a dead period all the way through starting on June the 23rd, all the way through the month of July, and then the next year's calendar starts in August with, you guessed it, a dead period for a month. So you gotta, this is where the work has to be done in this last month. With official visits. I think that Miami has done a really, really great job. If nothing else, getting elite talent on campus, which is really, really key. I wrote a feature for stateoftheu.com. What a wonderful website. Please come with that with us. Many, many years ago now, but still relevant, even though some of the details may have changed, called the recruiting rules about how you build elite classes. One of the things about recruiting elite blue chip talents, especially, well, always, but especially from out of state, is you have to get them on campus twice, if not 3 times. And hopefully with unofficial visits, they pay their way, and then an official visit as well. So if a player visits only once, maybe you can make something shake. Maybe there's something behind the scenes, but usually it's going to take multiple visits. And Miami's done a really great job of getting guys on campus multiple times, whether, and also shout out to Pylon. Is it Pylon? No, Battle, excuse me. The first big 7-on-7 tournament of the year is the Battle Miami, and they shut down the 7-on-7 for an afternoon so that all the 7-on-7 teams can take unofficial visits to Miami at the beginning of the open period. It's such a lovely thing. Like, I love Battle Miami because, like, you get everybody to come down. And I mean, this is back in February, March that happens. But, that adds in because, hey, the players are like, well, I'm here with my 7-on-7 team. So they fundraised, got sponsored or whatever, but it's paid for by whatever entity that's not the University of Miami. And they still get that unofficial visit. So it's like a free unofficial visit. Like, again, Brian said before, if it's free, it's for me. And you get these elite players on campus. What's not to love? Anyways, I have digressed, and let me return to the lecture at hand. There have been just a cavalcade of blue chip recruits, to hit campus. Some have elected to go elsewhere already, like Messiah Hampton from upstate New York chose to go to Oregon, committed a couple weeks ago, and things like that. But you get, 5-star Lamar Brown from University Lab in Baton Rouge. His high school's on the campus of LSU. Tristan Keys committed to LSU. Derek Cooper. A lot of your commits have already been down. The rest are going to be down this weekend. Brett College from IMG. Devin Jackson from Orlando, who was committed to Florida when Zach Etheridge was up there and then left or decommitted from them. But he's visited down here. Hezzy Kent, the big 6'5", 300-pound tight end from Brunswick, Georgia, has been down. James Johnson, the elite defensive tackle from North Fort Myers, who transferred to Miami Northwestern, Bryce Perry Wright, who, from physical build, although I don't think he's as explosive, but people have made the 1-to-1 comp of Bryce Perry Wright to Ruben Hurricane Bain for being a little bit shorter, but very well built and twitchy at defensive end. So he's a guy who's a 5-star who was down last weekend. Also, Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 player in America. Boom. He was down. Blake Stewart from Atlanta. Excuse me. Jay Lamar from Colquitt County, Georgia was down. You have just so many guys. And I think that Miami is trending in a good direction with a lot of them, especially coming off the back of official visits. And official visits are probably the thing that have the most individual return on investment in a recruitment. Like, that's one weekend where like the gains can be made very strongly. My thing is, there's going to be a time when choices have to be made, because Miami has so many elite prospects that they're in like the top 3, like 2, 3, 5 or whatever, but you can't take everybody. You can't.
Correct.
You just cannot. So there have to be decisions made, and it's like, oh, well, this guy, this 6'4" receiver is committed to Tennessee, but then there's, a local 6'5" receiver, and he's, whatever, but we'll take them both. But then if there's this slot receiver who's committed to Georgia, and then this other slot receiver who's also from South Florida, and they all want in, and I'm like, guys, like, like the numbers, I know that the numbers will work themselves out. I'm kind of like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover with just the lines of code and mathematical equations, like trying to fit everything in, because everything is not going to shake. So, we'll see. Interesting. Javian Mallory, Miami commit from West Boca, seems maybe like he's looking around a little bit. Just took an official visit to Tuscaloosa to Alabama last weekend. So, between him and Derek Cooper and Jay Lamar from Colquitt County, Georgia, Miami would like to have 2 of those 3, but would take all 3. And one of them is committed already, and the last 2 visited last week. So it's just like, figuring all these things out. But yeah, I think, when we're seeing a lot of commitments be scheduled in the early part of July. So like, I've seen a couple on the 3rd, a bunch on the 4th, 6th, 7th, 10th. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll really start to see how this class is shaping up. Miami is fighting for a lot of elite blue chip talents. It used to be Miami versus Alabama for a lot of guys. And actually, and this is another piece that I wrote for stateoftheu.com years ago, Miami versus Alabama on the recruiting trail was closer to 50-50 than you would have thought. The thing about it is, the 75 other dudes on Alabama's roster that Miami couldn't get to pick up the phone when they were trying to recruit them.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So, like, don't let it go. And I think I'll find it and try to post it in the comments or in the description. It was like, head to head, it was close. But then you had just all kinds of other All-Americans and Heisman Trophy winners and first-round NFL draft picks who Miami could not get to come out of their math class when the coaches would visit them at the school, type of a thing.
Right.
Now that's transitioned to Miami versus Georgia on the trail. In a lot of different instances over a lot of different years. If you look at like a Chris Ewald, from last class, if you're looking at like a Derek Cooper in this class, you're looking at Jay Lamar in this class, Jackson Cantwell in this class, Brett College in this class, and the list goes on. So it will really be interesting to see how Miami goes head to head against Georgia as the cycle continues towards its progression, and just, what kind of decisions are made, just to round out the class. So there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of people who have been visiting and will continue to visit. Got a couple 5-stars coming up this weekend. And, got like Vance Spafford. He was one of those slot receivers that I mentioned. He's from California, but committed to Georgia. And also, Ben Congdon, 4-star, 6'7", 300-pound offensive tackle who's committed to Miami. He'll be down. And last weekend was one of my favorite recruits in this class, Mr. Calvin Russell from Miami Northwestern. And coming up this upcoming weekend, Jason Lopez, Jasen Lopez from Chaminade. And they are both offensive players, but there's more to the story. And I think Brian's going to tell us about it.
Well, yeah. So those 2 guys won studs, and I want them both. But yeah, what Cam is talking about is they both are 2-sport players who want to continue to play two sports at the next level. As
what sports?
That would be football and basketball.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, look, there've been baseball players too, so I just wanted to throw it out there.
So my question is this. So I was thinking, I was like sitting down before getting ready for the show, thinking about, okay, who has done the two sport thing at Miami in any kind of way, shape, or form? And my brain is foggy. So but off the top of my brain, I was like, oh, Philip Buchanan played baseball for like a season or two. You know, he like
one.
For one, okay. Like Kennard Lang did it for like a half of a baseball season. There's been a couple of guys that have done it. Like we know about, like Jimmy Graham went from basketball to football, so that, and he didn't come to Miami thinking he was going to play football, so that doesn't really count. I can't think of too many. There's been some guys, like there's been a couple of football players that have kind of suited up for a basketball game for a couple of games and been on the bench, but no one that's made an impact, right? No one that's really been a two-sport star that has made an impact at both sports, again, other than Jimmy Graham, but that's not what we're talking about.
And also revenue sports, because I know that correct. People are listening and say,
oh, track,
all of the old Canes ran track.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. But we're talking about the big four sports. I hear you, but yes. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So my point is this. It's kind of been discouraged through past administrations at the University of Miami for guys to play two sports. It's really been discouraged, especially from the football aspect of it. Leonard Hamilton or Perry Clark or Frank Haith would always say, oh, fine if a guy, whatever, wants to play two sports, whatever. Jim Morris would always say, hey, whatever, whatever it takes. We'll work with whoever. It's always been the football coaches have been like, I don't know. I don't know about that. So I'm interested to get your thoughts on one. Are you okay with a guy trying to play two sports at a high level? And two, how you think Mario and this staff might have a different outlook, or do they, on this situation?
I find it funny because I ran into the same kind of a thing when I was a high school teacher, with football coaches being just very territorial over their players.
Of course.
It's just a thing, that happens. And I taught choir for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? It's not like I was like, hey, we're going to, do another contact sport or something. I was just like, I need Kevin on Tuesday because we have states for singing, guys. You know what I mean? But anyways, I'm fine with somebody trying it. My thing is I need it to be for real and not for play. You know what I mean? For example, if you can really hoop, Keon Coleman went to Michigan State on a dual scholarship, basketball, football. Yes. He eventually gave up basketball for football, was a first-round pick, transferred to, Tallahassee and whatever. Fine. But, I think he dropped 60 or 70 points in a pro-am last weekend. He can hoop. If it's fine. I have seen Jason Lopez's basketball tape. He's a very nice point guard. He has skills. I have not seen Calvin Russell's. I know that he's more athletic because he's 6'5". He's a more guy walking forward. I'm fine with anybody trying to do both, but if it's just okay, I'm doing it, but not really impacting both, then I think eventually a choice will need to be made. And I think that you can look at history, and it's not, he didn't go here, but Donovan McNabb played on Syracuse's basketball team
yep.
Back when they were Syracuse, back in the late 90s when they were good. You know what I mean? So I think that I'm fine with it. Let them go through the process. If they can hack it, not be placed there, not get a ride at the end of the bench because they're a really great football player and we want them to come to Miami and not go to another school. But if you can actually hoop, and, Jay Lucas, the new basketball coach, is no, I would be recruiting this kid regardless of anything else that he does, then I'm fine with it. Let him try it out, see what shakes from there. Yeah, that's just kind of my read on it.
Look, let's can we just be really honest? They're gonna tell the kid whatever they want to hear to get him onto campus, right? So like
Mhm.
if Jay Lucas needs to be involved to make some phone calls and show up to official visits and whatever whatever it takes. Like they're going to say whatever it's going to take, right?
Yeah.
As to what actually pans out once they get to Coral Gables is a different situation. I'm totally cool with it. I know like Michigan has like some high level programs.
Mhm.
Like you said, Syracuse, like there's been some great programs that have had two-sport athletes that have been good at both and had success in both. And I'm totally fine with it. It's just when I was going and prepping for the show and I saw these two guys and Jason Lopez and Calvin Russell, they really wanted to be two-sport athletes. I was like, here we go again. Like, we're going to get to the point where football's not going to, like, is Mario different than anyone else? Like, I don't know, but we'll find out because in the past, like, ever since I've been around,
Yeah.
it's been like, oh, sure, we'll let you play basketball. And then they get here and it's like, not so much. Like, oh, wait, you want to go suit up for a few games and just kind of sit on the bench? Fine. Don't get yourself hurt.
Right. I also think, and we'll give credit to Mario for like transparency and truth, because I'm hopeful, and like, I think that he's said this even like when like guys have transferred out, like I was very real about what their role was and where they were developmentally and what their skill set was. And if they saw themselves in a different light or they wanted to have a bigger role or whatever that we couldn't offer them, then we paved the way for them to be elsewhere. I think that very quickly with Mario, even if all the way through the recruitment of both Calvin Russell and Jason Lopez, they say play both, play both, play both, play both. They sign in December, they show up in January or whenever, and they go through, they join the basketball team. They're, they practice out there. They do the off field or off season with Miami, play spring. I think at the end of that spring, real talk will happen and say, hey, you're here. You need to be here to be able to play at Miami football. We can get you there, but your attention, your focus is split. So it's up to you to decide if you're willing to do that, to do the work to get there. Now, it might take 2 years instead of 1 year. It might be a redshirt year, a redshirt freshman year, and then your redshirt sophomore year before you're to the level and standard to be able to hit the field for the football team while doing both sports and cross-training both at 100% equity between the two sports. So I'm hopeful that will happen, that truthful conversation. And then, let it be known. But like, I know a lot of people are big fans of Jason Lopez. And I think that he can play. I think he can play both sports. As a maybe backup point guard and like, third, fourth, fifth year, like potential like 6-man starter down the line on the basketball team, as well as being a very, very dynamic slot receiver. I would throw him under the bus with the full force and weight of my being to get Calvin Russell on this football team. And like I said, Calvin Russell on the football team. I don't care about the basketball because I've seen what he does on a football field. But that's my thought on things. I know that there's going to be people in the comments talking about Cam. Hey, I keep it real. A 6'5.5", 200-pound receiver who does what Calvin Russell does, regardless of what he does on basketball, and respectfully to a very good blue chip player of Jason Lopez, give me that kid on our football team tomorrow. Everything else be dead.
All right. Last thing before we get out of here. Okay.
Oh, this is new. Brian hasn't told me what everybody's about to say.
It just came to my mind.
Let's go.
I feel really good about the recruitment of Calvin Russell, except for one thing. I can't think of a Calvin that's ever played at the University of Miami.
He'll be the first then. Trailblazer.
When I think of Calvins, I think of like SEC. I think of like LSU or Alabama or something. I don't think of Miami when I think of Calvins. Names do a lot for me, Cam. Like, I had like names somehow, like I think like, your name kind of, whatever name you're given kind of like sets your future kind of a thing. So listen, if we can establish Calvin's having success at Miami, I'm down.
I got one for you.
Okay.
From 1982 to 1985, Calvin James was one of the few players who was on both of those championship baseball teams, inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2004. Looks like left-handed hitting guy who I was trying to see if it had a position in there. Did not. Had most triples in a career, second most number of stolen bases. Yeah, he won a bunch of other awards. He was a second-round draft pick of the Houston Astros in 1985.
Okay.
So there is a Calvin who went to the University of Miami and is a Sports Hall of Famer. I know I had to dig deep and hit my Googles real quick, but we got one Sports Hall of Famer named Calvin. Calvin Russell, come on down, be the next one, be a great one, right here at home for the U.
I love what you just did there. It's amazing. And my apologies to Calvin James. I should have known. I was thinking more football, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it in any sport, really.
But hey, everything comes full circle. We started talking about baseball. We went to two sports. We're talking about Calvin's. We link it back to baseball. This is a professional podcast, and you're not going to get this anywhere else, guys.
No. You don't get this kind of stuff anywhere else. There's no doubt about it. All right. That'll do it for us this week. Hey, please do me a favor. Go read all of the great stuff at stateoftheu.com. It is free, and it's open 24/7, 365. There's a couple articles we'll try to put in the description of the podcast, the strength and conditioning one, and then there was another one that you were going to throw up there.
Miami recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting. So we'll put those in the description. Cam will send those to me. And but go check out Cam's stuff. You can follow us both on X. Follow Cam at Underwood Sports. Follow myself at Miami Radio Beast. Until next time, everyone be safe out there in summer. Don't blow any hands off with fireworks, please. And we will check you next time right here on the Real Ones Canes podcast. Peace.